Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ryan or Darwent Design here. Welcome back to another video. Today's video, I'll be teaching you guys how to make designs like the Kansas City Chiefs. So I just pulled this graphic here off their socials and I kind of recreated it with my own twist. I didn't do like one for one recreation, kind of put my own little twist on it. So I'll just be breaking down the PSD, kind of walking you through how I did it, and then I'll have the link to download this in the description as well if you want to play with it yourselves and kind of pull from it and look more into it. So to get started, I'm going to start off with the background, really basic. So I always start off with the hex colors, just pull these from Google just to have on hand. And then I just threw a stadium, which is Arrowhead where they play. Got it off Google, and then I put it on put some Gaussian blur on it, probably like 5 or so, just to get a little bit of blur so it's not fully visible. And then I put it on darken. First I made it black and white, which is just right here in your adjustments. Put a clipping mask on it so it just clips to this layer, which basically means it won't affect. For example, if I took the clipping mask off and I dragged it out, it would make that hex colors also black and white. But since I clip it to just this stadium layer, it only affects this layer and everything gets clipped to. So that's how clipping masks work. They're pretty clutch. Learn to use them. And then I just put the whole group on darken to get some kind of different tones. This is a good blend mode. I like it. Then I use the layer mask. So what a layer mask is, basically it's what you can use to make things kind of more or less visible. So for example, I just made a new group here. I'll put a layer mask on it. If I invert it, which basically means this will all be black. To brush things in, it would be white. So I'll get my brush on white. You can kind of brush it in. And then if you want to hide it, you can switch it to an invert the brush, make it black, and go away again. So that's what we see here, how it's kind of different tones and stuff like that. That's what a layer mask is. I use them all throughout the design, so learn to use those as well. They're very important. And next is just kind of this dissolve thing. So you can see on the edges and stuff, they kind of had that little brush type effect with the gold. So to do that, I'll get the gold from my hex colors. And I already have it loaded up, but really simple. You can see I already have my brush. So just put your brush on normal, brush it in, and then change your brush, not your blend mode, but your brush mode to dissolve. Then put it on a layer mask, invert it, and then when you go to brush it in, so get a white brush since the layer is black, and then if it's white, you can switch it to black, stuff like that. Don't want to ramble on, but I hope it makes sense because it's important to know. And then to brush it in, you can see it has that effect around the edges similar to theirs, a little more drastic. So you can just switch it back to normal if you need to kind of smooth it out a little bit. But that's kind of how I did that for these two spots right there with the gold. Next up, I'll start with the mask. So I just cut this out through some camera raw on it, which is camera raw filter. I'll pull that up, because that's also very important for my color correction. If you watch these past videos, it's a pretty similar steps I use for all these, but just in case people aren't familiar, I like to go through them. So I play with these here, just exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, texture, clarity, and dehaze. That's really the only ones I touch. Maybe a little bit of temperature if I need to kind of bring out some more golds, but that's it there. Just kind of pump them up until you get something you like. You can see just kind of made it a little bit darker, kind of up the contrast a little bit. Now threw a skin on it. This is Topaz. So Topaz is an external program, so you don't get it automatically. You have to go out of your way to find it, or download it rather. But I use Topaz Adjust. And then I add Vivacious, lessen the transparency. I add Psychedelic, lessen the transparency, and then press apply. I threw on some Photo Pop. I lessen the transparency. And then some exposure correction. And then instead of clicking apply, I'm gonna click OK because I'm done. You can see how it kind of makes it pop a little bit more. So that's what I did for the skin. You can get Topaz off their website. I have a link to their website and below. You can get like a free trial, I think. I have the legacy version of Topaz Adjust. That's what you just saw me use there. So this, I was just fixing his cleat colors, so I don't have to worry about that. Threw some shadows on it. So to get these shadows, just got a regular feather brush, which means the hardness is at 0%. So it'll have like kind of softer edges. For example, you see the edges are softer, but if I put it up to 100%, it'd be a hard circle. So you want to add 0%, take your brush settings here and put the roundness lower to like 7 or so, and just kind of mash it up with the cleat, right? So I'm going to use white since it's going to be more visible. And you can kind of see how it matches up. And then you can press Control T, perspective, stuff like that to kind of angle it to get something you like. But that's what I did there. How I got those kind of oval shapes and stuff like that. So next up, I'll do the rectangle. Not too much to explain here. Just use the rectangle tool to make the rectangle. I don't know. Not too much goes into that. The grain, put a slight grain layer because they had one on theirs, and add a little color on it to get some texture at the bottom. The Chiefs logo, there was one I put in the back. You can see here. So I put that also on this one, but I changed the color up to that gold. And then you can see this with the layer mask here. I used the dissolve brush again to kind of replicate that effect. So that's that. Stats text, pretty simple. Just another rectangle. To get that kind of shadow, I used a drop shadow. And these are the settings I used to kind of replicate that gray they got. The text is not the exact same, but the font is called Hanson. Thought it looked similar enough to use. Kansas City box, nothing really much to talk about there. Chiefs logo. So for this, I just same thing with the back mask here, just camera raw and topaz. And then I just, instead of having just regular normal, you can see it's pretty strong at the bottom. So I use a layer mask to kind of brush it out a little bit, and then use the darkened layer to kind of fill it in instead of just putting it like this. So it kind of blends in with the back a little bit because there's text at the bottom that goes over to mimic theirs. And that's pretty much it for this design here, for the base of it at least. I threw this text in here as well. You can find right here. I didn't use it, but I wanted to include it in case you guys wanted to know how to do it. Basically, you just throw a stroke on it, which is in the blending options. Just throw a white stroke on it, or I guess gold for the top line. And then you can set it to fill 0%. You can see it only shows the outline. So that's how you do that. And cool. All right, so now we have our comp to go through camera raw. I mean color correction rather. I just have the lighting here, so I use some gradients. Soft light will have both lights and darks. Multiply will be darker. And then color dodge I used to bring out some of the lights and colors. So that's the gradients, the curves. These are all going to be in your adjustment panel, by the way. So the curves is the dark one. To get the darks, drag it below the line. And to get some lights, I put it above. And you can see all these, I'm using the layer mask I was talking about earlier to kind of have them show up how I want them to. Got some selective color on here, vibrant selective color. I preach about selective color all the time. You'll find that in your adjustment panel. And I love it, man. It's basically how you can affect how colors show up, how tones are portrayed, things like that. So you can get a stronger red or like a less strong red, stuff like that. And just go all the way down and play with your picture, your design rather, and kind of get things to show up how you want them to. Gives you more control over the colors, I guess. Vibrance, just right here, you can kind of up the saturation, lower the vibrance, whatever. And then I put a red to white gradient map on pin light to just bring out some softer edges. You can see it's really subtle, but I like the way it looks. And then camera raw, this is the final touch up here. To do this, to get the base layer, I just copied both of these, the lighting and the design. I merged it, and then I went to, well, that's my base layer. And then to do camera raw, filter camera raw. Same thing I did with the mask. And then I'll just copy this layer so I could build off of it. To do these here, these are camera raw filter presets. So I won't go into each one, but I'll show you for an example because it's the same process for all of them. When you open up camera raw, go to your presets, which is these two circles. And right here, you'll find all of these groups. If you have a recently updated Photoshop, you should see the same thing I'm seeing. And then the bright will be under color. LN06 will be under landscape. FT07 will be under futuristic. And pop will be under adaptive subjects. This one's really cool. So it kind of finds, like, it uses the computer, whatever, to kind of sense your cutout, and it only will affect the cutout. It won't touch the background. So that's where you get pop from. But yeah, I'd suggest you guys play with all these because you can see it's basically there's a bunch of different presets you can use for color correction. So I pull a little bit from each one. You can see how the layer masks are. That's FT07. You can see how strong of a difference that is. But I'll pull from all of them, different layer masks and transparencies. If I like a certain part from one, I'll pull it. And if I don't, I could just leave it. But there's so many different ways you can go through, and you could also play with blend modes and stuff, so you can get it to show up however you want to, right? But I kept it pretty simple, just kept it to 4 for this one. And that's pretty much how I went about creating this. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer. Also, to clarify, I turned the opacity down a little bit on the color correction group, so I can kind of just keep it simple. But yeah, man, that's all I got. So I hope this helped you guys out. Shout out to the original designer of this piece. I like the look of it. Wanted to give it a go myself. And so, yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Or you can hit me on my socials, which are always in the description. As I said before, the download link to this will be in the description, so you guys can play with it yourselves. And yeah, man, appreciate you all. Hope this helped. And I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace out.